Holly Provencal. I was watching your Materials and Directives of Scientology video. You briefly touched upon CBOs, which you had to read and memorize to do your management job. I was wondering if you could expand on those and possibly recite one or two off the top of your head. Holly, this is hilarious that you were asking me this because we actually spent upwards of about 3 or 4 full days memorizing in a 1.5-page long CBO, Central Bureau Order, about programming, about how to run org programs. And anyway, I have not given that a whole lot of thought in 20 years. And you said, can I run any off the top of my head? And I thought, oh my God, do I remember any of that? A program is a series of targets done step by step, one by one, until full program completion. I think that was the first line of it. I don't remember the rest of it, but I remember some of the principles. CBOs were Central Bureau Orders. Now, in the history of Scientology, management of Scientology has gone through various iterations, and there was a formation in the early days, this is early 1970s, when L. Ron Hubbard set up, instead of an organizing board that had divisions, they were called bureaus. And each bureau, the whole thing, the whole management section was referred to as the central bureaus. And so the guidance and orders and policy for those people doing those jobs were CBOs, Central Bureau Orders. So there were really only a few hundred CBOs altogether, if I'm remembering right. And one of them had to do with how to run programs. In fact, there were quite a few about how to run programs, because programs are one of the primary tools of Scientology management. Yelling, screaming, and orders through the phone and in person are the #1 tools of Scientology management. But programs are this administrative function and thing that they have that, if done right, they'd actually be kind of useful, but nobody does them right and nobody really gets them done. But Hubbard was on a roll about programs and running orgs on these step-by-step series of targets that you get done. And by getting them done, you take the org or area from this plateau to a higher one. You build, you grow, you expand it. The targets of the program are the steps that the staff are supposed to do right there on the ground in order to get that done. Sounds sensible enough, you give people competent, adequate direction and let them get on with it. That's what a program is. But Hubbard couldn't let people just get on with it, and so it was constant interference and constant cross-ordering and constant demands for more income and all kinds of other nonsense that gets mixed up in this. But if you just read the CBOs, then you get this really hardcore appreciation for programs and their importance. And so that was what I recall off the top of my head about CBOs. And yeah, I think that's about all I could really say about it. It's one of, so many different kinds of issues that Hubbard wrote for different things to cover policies or guidelines or rules for different areas. Just like there were CBOs for the managers during this particular time period, there were also, for example, Cine EDs, cinema executive directives, right? Or cinematic, having to do with cinematography. And here were a bunch of executive directives, a bunch of guidelines and policies about how to do cinematography. So you have those. I mean, it can be hyper-specialized issue types. So you can check out that Materials and Directives video if you want to know more about all that stuff.